Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today on this first Friday of December. As I was saying in a couple of my classes this week, we're officially now in the season of darkness, right? We're about 3 weeks out from the solstice, and so the next really till about the end of January, about 6-7 weeks, where we're in the darkest part of the year in terms of sunlight, and so it's an auspicious occasion, and I say that meaning it's a kind of it's both a blessing and a challenge, right? To be entering into this time, if we can take some time every day to separate out from our to-do lists and our to-get lists, which tends to be actually longer. It's one of the ironies of our society is we tend to pack in more stuff at the end of the year with the holidays and with expectations. But it's really a time when our bodies and minds wants to start to wind down. And so what I have found is taking some time every day to do that, to give yourself space to just be, to allow that rejuvenation to take place, to start to. It's almost like you're storing it up for. The winter keeps going after January too for a while, although it does start to get lighter out. You start to notice it by the beginning of February, middle of February. You start noticing the days getting longer, and it's quite a remarkable thing. You start to kind of can feel this rejuvenation happening, even though we're still kind of in the midst of it. But for the next 6 or 7 weeks. Really just, I found it's helpful not to resist, meaning it is what it is, right? It's the truth. It's the harmony. We're going to talk about harmony a little bit later today. So being in harmony with the season, but part of being in harmony with it is to flow with it. It's getting darker, getting colder. It's drawing us in. It's just drawing us in. It's more time. So allow yourself to be drawn in and not try to keep the same level of external activity going. And I know that's hard to do, again, because of all of the stuff that tends to go on this time of year. The to-do list and the to-get list are longer. They just are. That just seems to be the way our society has decided to organize itself. So, I was talking to somebody today, before the widespread invention of electricity, we would probably be sleeping like 10 hours a day right now. No problem. 10 hours a day of sleeping, and that's so for thousands of years. Come, late November, through till March, we would just be sleeping. Right, we would go to bed at like 8 o'clock and get up at like 6:30 or something like that. Right, so because it gets dark, and the fuel for light was scarce. You either had firewood or some kind of oil or something like that, but it wasn't like plentiful. It wasn't everywhere, so you would use it sparingly, to create light by which you could see. So what did you do? You went to bed and then got up when the light came out, which right now is like around 6:30, 6:15, 6:30, it starts getting light out, which isn't bad. It's not getting up then is actually pretty good. It's when it gets dark at 4:30 that things get a little hairy. So you can see how we're designed for this kind of sort of semi-hibernation, especially if, again, you lived away from the equator, which originally we did live near the equator for a long time. And then we started to migrate away. But as soon as we migrated away, our systems had to adapt to that migration, and the way we did it is through sleeping, basically. And so that just kind of tells you that all this activity, and you would also want to start just you're storing for the winter. That whole thing of not overexerting yourself if you didn't have to, so that you could start to store up energy. You actually store up, like, gain weight. Most of us gain weight in the wintertime for a reason, because our body is saying, store up some energy here. You might need it. And if you didn't do that, right, this is partly why we have our hoarding tendency, right? It's actually probably a big reason why we have our hoarding tendency, is because, again, hoarding helps for our survival on a physical level, right? It doesn't help on our psychological level very well, but it does in our spiritual level. But on a physical level, creating stores of food, whether it be in our bodies or in our cellars. We created cold cellars and things like that. We cultivated crops. Potatoes were, this huge crop in northern Europe for hundreds and hundreds of years, because it stored well. It stored, you could keep it through a long time, through the winter. And so these aspects of ourself are still built into us, and yet we're living in this kind of very modern life, which tends to keep us going like we think it's still the middle of summer, but it's not. And so it's not about saying completely, like, eschewing all those things. It's more just saying, like, I need to honor this deep part of me, this intrinsic part of me that wants to and needs to go inward and take care of myself. And so things like what we're doing here, this little satsang, is part of that. But really creating a little bit of this for yourself every day, and however you do that, allowing yourself some time of introversion and of rest, of real rest, whether it be meditation or a nap or just some type of, like, okay, I'm not going to try to overdo everything. And that, I think I have found for myself, creates a kind of sense of balance. I don't get overly schizophrenic where I feel like I'm just going, and I'm not taking care of this other aspect of myself, right? So if I kind of tap into that every day, give myself that space, it's really helpful. So with that in mind, we'll continue on our journey here. We will start with our meditation, do a little singing bell, a little breathing, a little just being, giving ourselves that time and space. And you've probably noticed over the course of the last few months with our group how our meditation is becoming more still, more subtle over time. I feel like we're able to hold that space. Feel free to let me know otherwise. It does take it sort of a little more of a mature practice when there's less things that we have to do, less tricks that we have to employ in order to come into a place of stillness. Remember, we're trying to cultivate stillness, vastness, spaciousness, the non-judgmental observer, right? The witness, right? So that's the kind of intention of our practice. There are all these little techniques and tricks along the way to try to get us there. But ultimately, we just want to be there, right? So the fewer, how do I put it? The less time we spend with the tricks and things like that. And I say tricks just because I don't mean them as in any condescending way. They're just ways of getting the mind to settle down, basically. And so they're really just tools, I should say, maybe tools, techniques, right? But ultimately, we let go of the technique, right? And we sit in the space of freedom. We sit in the space of spaciousness. And then when we need it, we go back to the technique, right? We go back. whenever we feel like, oh, I'm veering off into some story, into some judgment, I pull the technique back in. And all of us here now have been, together for a while, so we have a myriad of techniques, right? We have the mantras, we have the breath, we have sensation, we have a body scan, we have all kinds of different techniques now that we've practiced. And by now, most of you should have some that are hopefully a kind of go-to technique that works for you, right? And you can kind of go back to, whether it be any one of the things I just mentioned or a different technique, you just can kind of like, oh yeah, okay, let me go back, and it's just we just start again without any judgment. That's the key. When we find ourselves wandering off on some story, right? We go back to the technique without any judgment of the wandering off on the story. The story just comes up because it's just stuff in our psyche that wants to get expressed, and some of it can be quite captivating, both in terms of its enjoyment, right? Things can be like a fun story, or it can be quite disturbing. And either way, they tend to be pretty captivating. And so that's when we realize, oh, I'm off the beam here, and we do it again, really just softly, kindly bring it back. Know that those stories are really the ego's way of keeping us from getting free. Right? The ego, remember I said about the ego is not interested in our enlightenment. It's interested in control. Control and self-perpetuation. Right? So that's its MO. That's what it's going to try to do. And what we're trying to do is get out of that mode for a little while. Right? Get beyond that mode for a little while, because I think all of us here recognize the limitations of that mode. Not that it's all bad. It helps us in many ways, but it's limited, extremely limited in terms of our sense of peace and well-being and deeper happiness, right? And so we have to it's like take a vacation from that. We use the techniques, take us back home. All right. Let's see where it takes us today, and then we'll do. So I'm going to read again from Gary Zukav. We're still continuing. I'm in this sort of like love-hate relationship. I would say that's a little bit too big of an extreme. It's not quite that me. I like it, and then I get a little frustrated. Isn't even the right word. I feel like he's got a lot of extra words in there. A lot of extra words, and but there are parts of it that pop out and go, oh, well, that's pretty good, right? And it ties into a lot of what we're doing before. So I think that it still remains helpful. It's a different perspective, and so yeah, we're going to share from kind of combine a few chapters around the intention of the soul, and see what we get from that today. Yeah. And then I'll talk at the end about, I have an idea for what we might start up after Christmas. I think it's worth waiting until then, just because I think once we get started, we're going to want to stick with it for a little while. But I'll mention it to you at the end of our session today, and you can ponder the idea. See how it goes. All right, let's have a little tea. And get on our way. Feel yourself dropping in, boom, landing. Boom, boom. It's like you really almost feel like you're just like, it's like a spaceship coming down and landing in this spot. Boom, boom. You're like, okay, here I am. Sit bones into the ground, crown up towards the sky. You need to breathe deeply through your nose into your belly. The belly rise away from the spine on the inhale breath. Letting the belly fall back down towards the spine on the exhale. Soften the shoulders. Soften the face. Inhale, chest and belly rise. Exhale, chest and belly fall. Soften the shoulders. Soften the face. Lengthen the spine. Chin back. Crown up. Shoulders back and down. Heart open. And just following the breath inward. I am breathing in, chest and belly rise. I am breathing out, chest and belly fall towards the spine. I am breathing in, chest and belly rise. I am breathing out, chest and belly fall towards the spine. Chin back, shoulders back. Distance between pubis bone and the throat chakra open. Softening. Allowing. Softening. Allowing. Inhale, chest and belly rise. Exhale, chest and belly fall. Inhale, sitting up, lengthening, up to the crown. Exhale, releasing, softening the face, the shoulders, the thighs, keeping the spine elongated. Inhale, sitting up, lengthening, opening. Exhale, releasing, softening, allowing. Inhale, sitting up, lengthening, opening. Exhale, letting go, releasing, softening, allowing, letting go. Inhale, sitting up, lengthening, elongating, up through the crown, shoulders back. Exhale, releasing, softening, allowing. Inhale, elongate, up, up, up. Exhale, soften. Keep the spine elongated. You just feel this little softening and releasing, like it's almost like the vapors coming out through your pores of your skin. Letting go of any toxins, anything we don't need to take with us on our journey. Inhale, filling up that golden light, healing energy. Exhale, releasing any toxins from the body, the mind. Inhale, filling the whole body, the whole energy field, the golden light. Exhale, releasing, softening, cleansing, letting go. Inhale, lengthening, elongating, shoulders and chin back, lengthen up to the crown. Exhale, releasing, softening, allowing, letting go, letting go, letting go. Noticing, allowing, releasing. Noticing, allowing, releasing. And bringing the attention to the eyebrow center, third eye, Ajna Chakra. And dropping in, letting go. Dropping in, letting go. Experiment with releasing the shoulders even more. Lifting the heart, chin back, shoulders relaxed. Notice the quality of the air touching the skin. Notice the breath as it passes by the tip of the nostrils. Coolness on the way in. The warmth on the way out. Coolness on the way in. Warmth on the way out. Coolness on the way in. Warmth on the way out. A little longer. Stay with the focus on the sensations. Nice, long, steady breath. Bringing your awareness to the base of the spine, perineum. Just notice any sensation, any energy. The base of the spine, the perineum. Imagine a red orb of light pulsing at the base of the spine, that earth chakra. And just sending kind, loving energy, receiving kind energy as we connect into the ground, connect into the earth. Sense of belonging, sense of being here. Breathe into that space. Let it glow. Feel the expansion and contraction as you breathe. Give it room, give it space. Stay away from any judgment, how it shows up. Just feel into it. Enjoy it. Be it. And let the energy come up just a couple of inches. Up into the second chakra, Svadhisthana chakra. To our sexuality, our sensuality, our creativity. Sort of life force energy tends to get concentrated in that second chakra. It's in all of the chakras. It's in all of the nadis. It's in the auric field, that life force energy, that prana. And we concentrate it without effort in that second chakra. That chakra of sensuality, sexuality, creativity. And again, enjoy it. Appreciate it. It's not a matter of overindulging. It's a matter of knowing what it's there for. Knowing its gifts. Appreciating its gifts. Orange orb of light pulsing. And move the energy and awareness up about another 4 or 5 inches towards the navel center. And again, this is in towards the spine, so it's not on the front side necessarily, it's in the center of the body, behind the navel center. A yellow orb of light, Manipura chakra. A chakra of will, of intention, manifestation, that fire in the belly. Fire that connects our creativity with our heart, right? It's right in between our heart chakra and Svadhisthana chakra, that creativity, that sensuality. So this is that place where we feed and transform the heart chakra, sensuality, creativity chakra gets manifest in that third chakra. And again, we appreciate, we enjoy it, we keep it in balance, make sure it's healthy. Moving up to about another 5 inches, 4 or 5 inches into the heart chakra, the center of the chest. Again, the center of the torso, center of the chest. That whole area pulsing in a green light, Anata chakra. Feel it, allow it, that place of integration and compassion and love. Integration, compassion, and love. Integration, compassion, and love. This is that alchemist of the higher chakras and the lower chakras all coming together at the heart center connecting our earth-based chakras, the ground, the sensuality, the willfulness, with our heaven chakras, the crown, the third eye, the throat. They all come together into heart, an amalgam. Moving up another 6 inches, 5-6 inches to the throat. Again, behind the pit of the throat. Esophagus, spine, connecting to that central nervous system. Blue orb of light. Kind of place that tells us, is this true? Is this real? Connecting again right between our third eye and our heart chakra. Third eye, that place of wisdom, place of intuitive wisdom. The heart center, the place of love. Fifth chakra is that connection between the two. What is true? What is real? Moving up a little higher still now to the third eye. Again, in towards the pituitary gland. Violet orb of light pulsing. And seat of wisdom. Seat of intuition. Connecting. Again. Close to that crown chakra. Right below the crown chakra, which is the access to the universe, access to beyond the time-space continuum. It's like where it downloads into the third eye, where we decipher, interpret. Bringing any healing light energy to the third eye. Sense of gratitude again. Sense of reverence. And the energy and awareness and attention come to the crown, Sahasrara Chakra, known as the 10th gate, opening 1,000-petal lotus, enveloping the room, the body, the space, the sky. Running through the base, through the chakras again, base of the spine, pelvis, belly, heart, throat, third eye, crown, base of the spine, pelvis, belly, heart, throat, third eye, crown, base of the spine, pelvis, belly, heart, throat, third eye, crown. All channels are open. The breath is steady. There might be a little vibration or a feeling of vibration in the body as those channels open. Just allow that. Don't let it deter you. So those energy lines open up, the chakras open up. It's like sending a little more electricity through the system. Stay with it. Stay in the spaciousness a little bit longer. Taking a deep inhale breath. Hold it. Exhale, let it go with a sigh. Again, inhale. Hold. Engage, pull up through the chakras. Exhale. Just listening, being. One part of you stays in the meditation, one part of you opens itself up to the words and teachings. Multisensory humans see themselves as part of life. They see animals, plants, and minerals as part of life. They see the smallest and the largest forms of life as equally important. Multisensory perception begins the process of opening them to the experience, creating authentic power, brings it into fruition. Authentic power is the alignment of the personality with the soul, which means the alignment of the multisensory personality with the intentions of the soul. As we begin to understand harmony as an intention of the soul, we see that harmony is simply a reflection of that which is. Life in the Earth School appears harmonious to five sensory perception because it is the domain in which personalities come to learn the difference between love and fear so that they can choose love instead of fear. The entire universe is harmonious or balanced, but in ways that are beyond human experience. As multisensory humans cultivate love and challenge fear in themselves, while they interact with one another, while they are creating authentic power in themselves, they can reach a common resonance of high frequency in the process. That is what, in the Earth School, we would call harmony. That frequency is not only a little bit higher, it is inexpressibly higher than the frequency of a negotiation to create a circumstance of minimal conflict. It is an interaction in which the needs of all involved are considered and honored. The needs of love are given priority over all, and the desires of fear are given no priority except as they serve the purpose of illuminating the distinction between love and fear within individuals who are creating authentic power. In human emotional terms, this would be when we care for one another, we are interested in one another. We seek the well-being of one another, and we experience that in one another. That is the nectar of the Earth School. That is harmony. That is a new potential awaiting us, a potential that is beyond contentment, beyond even joy. It is the beauty, the fulfillment, the richness of life itself. It is the experience of ourselves as part of life, and others as part of life, and others as part of ourselves, and ourselves as part of others and all else. Your soul intends to create with harmony in the Earth School. When you align yourself with that intention, you move yourself into new domains. These domains are beyond five-sensory experience. They are not beyond multisensory experience. They are calling multisensory humans to the experience of the universal human. Cooperation is the natural course when competition no longer dominates consciousness. This is the same thing as saying that love is the natural course when fear no longer dominates consciousness. Competition assumes that only one party can win, that only one party can come out on top. Cooperation assumes that there are no winners or losers. There are only cooperators, individuals who have set the intention to merge their creativity with their intelligence and their wisdom toward a common goal. Five-sensory individuals operate in the pursuit of external power. Indeed, that is what they do when they are competing. For example, competing entities such as corporations encourage and in fact require cooperation among employees. Multisensory humans cooperate, but their cooperation is a special type of cooperation. It is co-creation. Co-creation is cooperation soul to soul. It is the cooperation in the service of love. Co-creation is the joining of multisensory individuals in ways that they were meant to join, just as cooperation is the joining of five-sensory individuals in ways that they were meant to join, which is the pursuit of external power. Multisensory humans require spiritual development to evolve. Spiritual development requires moving beyond the needs of fear, the perceptions and desires of fear, the goals of fear, in other words, the objectives of frightened parts of the personality. The experience of harmony is without bounds because love is without bounds. And co-creation is a route toward the experience of love. Multisensory humans were born to co-create. They co-create naturally. The only obstruction to their co-creation is our frightened parts of their personality. Cooperators cooperate in order to achieve a physical goal. Co-creators co-create in order to experience a merging of their creativity, intelligence, wisdom, and joy. The process of co-creation is more important to them than the objective. The objective is the vehicle that brings multisensory individuals together. Co-creation allows them to move toward that objective. Yet as they do, they move toward it in a way that is open, wide open. They are not confined to that objective, although eventually, if they choose, they will reach it. The journey is as significant and meaningful and fulfilling to them as the objective. Co-creators co-create for the fulfillment of co-creation, for the joy of co-creating. Co-creators desire more of the experience of co-creation. Co-creation is not possible without an open heart, and when the open heart is there, it leads to satisfaction and fulfillment. Co-creation requires caring for the other. It requires considering the benefit to others and the collective. Put it this way, co-creation has no favorites. It is a natural flow of love between the co-creators. They may or may not think it that way, but that will be their experience as they discover the joy of co-creation. What is shared from the perspective of the soul? In the Earth School, it is love. There is nothing else that can be shared that is worth the effort. All else is the pursuit of external power. Reverence is relating through your soul. Reverence connects your personality with souls in advance of your own. It is the engaging in a form and depth of contact with life that is beyond the shell of form and into essence. It is contact with the essence of every person, bird, plant, animal, and thing, with the essence of the earth and all upon and in it. It is contact with the interior of its beingness. Reverence is accepting the principle of the sacredness of life, any way that you define sacred. Reverence is the experience that all life is in and of itself of value, and that everything is life. Without sharing, you go nowhere on the spiritual path, and yet you must embark on the spiritual path in order to share. Sharing is the same as giving, and giving is the same as sharing when there is no hidden agenda. When love is the inspiration, love is the giver. Love is also the receiver. One of the greatest gifts you can give to others is to receive their love. This does not mean to exploit their love. It means to open yourself to the love they have to give. They do not open themselves to give this love to you. They open themselves to fulfill themselves, to live with meaning and purpose and joy. Yet they cannot do that when they have a second agenda. Nonetheless, they themselves grow spiritually as they develop the ability to receive the love that you have to share, as well as the ability to share the love that they have for you. As you develop the ability to share without second agendas, your sharing becomes like a light from the sun or warmth from the sun. The sun has no hidden agenda. It has no requirements. It gives and gives and gives. Its sharing is complete. Eventually, the energy of the sun will exhaust itself. Yet that is another activity, so to speak, in the endless giving and sharing that occurs in the universe. Okay. Let's just sit with that for a moment. So that was from like 3 little chapters on the intentions of the soul, on harmony, cooperation or co-creation, and on sharing. And again, I like the themes of that a lot. There's a lot of extra words in there, those, but in those, and I just pick and chose the words I chose, but those are all, I think, very helpful, because what they're showing us is that when we're not in those places, right? When we're not in the place of harmony or co-creation or sharing, right? We're usually in some place of fear, right? We're afraid, basically. And so one of the things that we can do is to really ask ourselves, am I acting out of fear, or am I acting out of faith in some way. And I don't say faith in some external God or everything's going to be okay or whatever. It's more just like, do I want to be in a place of abundance and sharing and co-creation and harmony with what is, or do I not? And I have a choice as to how I'm going to align myself, right? I have a choice as to how I'm going to align myself. Now, sometimes we don't feel like we have a choice, and I understand that, and I'm there sometimes too, but we really do. We really do. And he talks about before these 3 chapters. There was a chapter on courage. I'm not sure if we shared that one or not, but we basically, this is where kind of courage comes in, because our tendency again is to sort of look at life as a sort of zero-sum game, and how do I kind of get what I need to meet my needs, and how do I avoid getting criticized or that kind of thing, and which we perceive as danger, right? On a certain level, we perceive criticism as danger, right? Because we're kind of got this whole built-in thing of needing to stay part of the group in some way, and so when we get criticized, we feel a certain threat, right? However, that's not really the case that's going on. What's going on when we're getting criticized is we're trying to be coerced. People wouldn't bother to criticize us if they didn't want something from us, right? They're on that level of wanting us to be a certain way. So they're criticizing us as a tool of manipulation, basically, to get us to comply, right? But we have a tendency to pay attention to that. and then that causes some schism in our psyche between who we are and what this feedback that's coming at us, which has to do with these other people. It doesn't have really anything to do with us. So what he's saying here is there's another level in which we can commit ourselves to being love, to being this place of love and compassion, and tuning in to these sort of higher chakras. We did the chakra work, right? Of truth and intuitive wisdom and connecting into the universe, and then integrating that in the heart. And then we bring the lower chakra energies and abilities. So the lower chakra energies are much more attached to our sort of physical realm, right? Our physically being here, our creativity, our sensuality, our sexuality, our willfulness. These are all sort of earth and physical form energies, right? But we want to be informed not by these fear-based things of, am I going to be okay and that kind of thing, but actually from love, from our heart, from our universal consciousness, right? And then we employ our physical body in the service of these higher chakra energies and awareness, as opposed to just running around trying to avoid fear or hurt, it's because there's just so many things out there that if we're paying attention to them all the time, we'll be constantly being buffeted, and we're just trying to avoid being buffeted, as opposed to how do I just float above all this stuff. And people are doing and saying things and making accusations or whatever they're doing. They're playing on that level of consciousness, right? Of how do I get my needs met based on what the culture has told me are my needs, right? And can we just up-level the whole thing? And just how can I be in a place of love for myself and for others all the time? All the time. Be in harmony with what is. Be in a place of co-creation. What's great about this notion of co-creation is, I've experienced it sometimes, like when we're on a retreat, or when I used to run the rowing club and stuff like that, where it becomes less about the outcome of what you're doing, and the process becomes the goal. The process becomes the goal. It's like that whole notion of making a beautiful meal or something like that, right? And it's not so much about eating the beautiful meal, right, which can be enjoyable, but actually might take 20 minutes. Like, say it's a piece of pie, like you're making a beautiful pie. It could take you quite a long time to make a beautiful pie, and then you eat a piece of pie in like 15 minutes, right? But the co-creation of it, and when you're doing this with others, it becomes quite magical. This is what I used to love about rowing. This is what I like about doing the retreats and things like that, is that you feel this sort of co-creation. People are bringing themselves, people are helping out with the retreat. I'm sort of got my role to play there, but everybody's got their role to play. The retreat doesn't exist without others, right? It doesn't exist, right? And I used to teach my rowers, when I was coaching my rowers, to love their competition. Love their competition. Love them. Be nice to them. Thank them for coming, and say, I can't wait to see you again, right? Because you don't exist without them. You don't exist. Not at that level anyway. So, and so it's like that all becomes a kind of like a huge love fest at that level. Right? You are in the place of love. You are manifesting love. It's less about whether you win or lose the race. It's less about whether the retreat, ends up being profoundly transformative or just a good time, or maybe even something bad happens, right, during the retreat. Somebody gets hurt or something, right? But you deal with that. You deal with that in the moment, and that becomes part of the co-creation of the experience. And it's actually the co-creation of the experience that is the joy. And sometimes there's other little incendiary things, like the delicious piece of pie. I'm not saying the pie isn't delicious, right? But it's actually the whole thing about the creation of it that becomes a kind of a collaborative experience, right? That is beyond, here's the thing that he talks about with the whole sharing and the co-creation, and it becomes beyond the ego gratification of it, or if I'm giving something to you, what am I going to get back in return? You're losing that hold on that thing, right? That hold on that thing. I remembered, most of the things that I've done in my life. Rowing, yoga, all this stuff, it's not about like, well, what is this necessarily going to get me, right? How am I going to be, more successful or more known or whatever it is? All those sort of, remember the three things of the wheel of hedonic wheel, right? Something like that, of wealth and status and appearance and all that kinds of stuff. Like, if you run everything through that gamut, then most of my choices in life have been like ridiculous. And but if you run it through the gamut of, well, what have the actually doing those experiences been like? Have they been joy? Have they been harmonious? Have they had co-creation? Have they had an opportunity to share and receive and to love and to give and to receive? I've had a lot of that. So, you're tuning in to we go back to what do we really want, right? What do we really want? What do we really want? Do I want peace? Do I want connection? Do I want aliveness? You can have other things, right? And I'm just talking about the three that I've come up with, which we've talked about before. But if we want those things, then we have to align ourselves with those things, and we have to be willing to make some sacrifices. Is it bringing me one of those three things? If it's not bringing me one of those three things, then I should I be doing it right now? And sometimes we have to do things that don't. But even those things can actually start to, I use the example of taking out the garbage, right? Well, the thing about taking out the garbage or creating a clean space for ourselves is it gives us room to be creative. It gives us, if we're too much clutter in our life, if we don't take care of our body, our physical body, right, which can seem on one level selfish, but then we can't do these other things. We can't co-create. We can't, so there's a balance here, obviously. We can be loving, and actually we can be very loving and quite self-absorbed at the same time. There's an aspect of the spiritual life that is extremely self-absorbed, right? You are manifesting the self, you're realizing the self, right? So it's not like it's all about, hey, be nice to everybody. Okay, that's not it. That is definitely not it. You are nice to everybody because you are nice to yourself, and because you're recognizing yourself as divine and everything else is divine at the same time, right? So it's like you're no more important or no less important than everybody else. And if we're trying to get our sense of importance by how much we just give out there, right, that's not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. Can I say it again? Not going to work, right? It's a balancing act, right? Just as we were talking about when we first started today about how do I do allow myself to go inward during this time, right? We get all these demands on us. How are we going to show up for everybody else all the friggin' time? Excuse my language. How are we going to show up for everybody else, right? But it's not going to work if all we do is try to fulfill that. Just not. So, all right. So it's a balancing act. All right. How do we take care of ourselves? We love ourselves. We connect into these energies, right? We enjoy these energies. Yes. Okay. Enjoy all of them, right? And we appreciate them. And then from that space, we interact with the external, right? From this place of attunement, loving kindness, feeling, sensing, we expand that out. So now our consciousness is operating on a different level. And when we get afraid, we recognize that's always it's some schism. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. Now, it doesn't mean we don't get afraid. It doesn't mean I don't get afraid. I do, It's just, it's an illusion. Okay. And I'm back in I'm not going to be okay in some way. I'm not in the present moment. You can deal with anything in the present moment. Anything. Right? I'm afraid, that this is going to happen. Or if this person yells at me, then this is going to happen. This is going to, it's like I'm off on some tangent. I'm getting out of that place of like, okay, what is it that really attunes me with where I am right now? And that doesn't mean that sometimes there's not compromise. There is, right? Because that might be the most loving thing, is compromise. Staying too strong to your guns, so to speak, like, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. That can be unkind too, to yourself as well as others. That's not co-creating, right? Co-creating is what is everybody going to need here, right? It's kind of like, that good parenting moment, which not that I know much about parenting, but I'll just use an example of like, you're planning on going to grandma's house, right? We're going to take the kids to grandma's house, right? And we've told them about it. And one of your kids says, well, yeah, but I want to go to the movies with Susie, right? I want to go to the movies with Susie. Susie, I need to go to the movies. I don't want to go see grandma. And you say, well, I understand that you want to go see the movies with Susie. Nevertheless, we're going to grandma's house, right? And you do that in that moment with empathy for your child wanting to spend time with Susie, and even understanding the fact that they might not really want to be all turned on by going to see grandma, right? However, we sort of know that in the big picture of things, this is it's not like I'm going to force you to go to grandma. It's like we're sort of guiding this whole thing towards it sometimes, and we're teaching, hopefully, the children to sort of say life is this balancing act between our needs for what we think we need in the moment, right? With sort of bigger, more kind of cosmic needs of staying connected sort of intergenerationally. And what's always interesting, right, is that once you've sort of made that decision for them, 99% of the time, they're like fine with it. They're like, oh, okay, I'm angry and pissed, but then you're in the car and they calm down and now they're off to grandma's house and they have a good time, right? But it's, you're teaching them in a way how the immediacy of the moment is not always where it's not always taking in the bigger picture of what is the most loving thing to do in this moment, right? But we're all like that. We're all like that. We're all like that little child on some level. I think I need this right now. I think I need this right now. But actually, we're clinging. We're clinging onto something that is an illusion, And I think a lot of us are experiencing that right now with the pandemic too. The pandemic's going on and on and on and on, and we keep thinking, oh, when's life going to calm down and get back to normal? And it's over. Getting back to normal is over. Okay? And we're in this place, and that's uncomfortable for everybody to some extent. And so the question is, can we just sort of be compassionate with ourselves and walk into the wilderness together and co-create a new future? The flip side of all that is it's wide open. We can create, and it's almost like we get to reboot and start over. What a frigging gift, right? Is it hard? Yes. All right. Is it scary? Some, yeah. But it's also unbelievable and amazing and awesome and all kinds of things, right? It's just not letting our fear dominate. Noticing it, recognizing it, and saying, is this something I really need to be afraid of? Is this something I need to accommodate to some extent? Or is this just a story I've got going in my head about, oh, woe is me, and why can't things work out the way I want them to work out? Which is, again, a story in our head, right? So I like this one, the intentions of the soul, the intentions of our heart, the intentions of love, harmony, co-creation, sharing, right? Generosity from the heart, not generosity from, oh, I want to be seen as a nice person and I want people to like me. No, it comes from the gestalt of, it brings me joy to share. It brings me joy to share. I don't need you to thank me. Don't need you to tell me what a great person I am. I don't even need you to be nice to me, right? I just want to share with you. Here you go. So, anyway, so I went on a little riff there, and what do you guys think? Anyone? Nobody thinks anything?
I do. First of all, I love the metaphor of the sun giving continuously without an agenda. That's really cool. I like that as a comment.
I like that one too. I've used that one in class. Yeah, I've used that analogy in class before.
Yeah. It's great because it's true and it's just there. And also, but being in harmony, it's interesting. It's really great, but it's always not. It's sometimes difficult when others are not in the same place yet. And I go back 25 years ago with a conversation with my sister-in-law, and I wasn't as if she awakened or as lightened, because it doesn't happen all at once. Starts young, and whatever age you start getting on that pathway. But I was then, and I was so easy with things. And I remember my sister-in-law was just so cut and dry and rude, and I broke down in tears when I hung up the phone. I was just like, how could she say that and be so, it was like combative, and I cried. Actually, the emotion was just, I looked at my mother and I just burst into tears. Today, it's so different. I know if this person doesn't have that same harmony, and maybe now more so, I don't know, but I handle it so differently now. It's like, listen, I'm still feeling what I felt 25 years ago, but today I handle it differently. It's almost, it's very interesting how it's like, okay, if that's the way you feel, I'm not taking it as personally anymore, because now I'm seeing from the outside in, observing, and it doesn't affect me like it used to affect me, which I'm so thrilled with. It's just a personal learning curve, but
Yeah.
how do you, when you feel the harmony, when you're feeling all these things and it's working for you, unless you're not in the same group. And it's funny, I speak about our group to my husband and other people and how special it is, because we all understand wherever we are in this process of enlightenment, we get it, and no one's judging. But when you're with others that aren't there yet, that's when it's difficult. So the harmony isn't all around, right? In the same group, sitting at the same table. Us all together at a table would be wonderful. Just all having a dinner together or whatever with our group, because it's not like that when you're in the life with all these extras going on, and I think that the harmony is one of the most beautiful feelings, one of them. And with your co-creation, I keep thinking procreation. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Sorry, it's all I keep hearing.
Yeah. Maybe you have that on your mind.
Absolutely.
I think you should invite us all over for dinner at your house, and we'll cook dinner together. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, yeah, I think that would be good. But I think, remember we had that analogy, I made that analogy of being like the bullfighter in the ring, right? And part of being in harmony is you're not expecting the bull to be somebody else, right? You're in there, and the bull is the bull, and the bull's going to do what the bull is, instinctually going to do. And so when you're with people who aren't in harmony, so to speak, maybe they are actually just playing their roles out exactly perfectly the way they are meant to do it. And so your being in harmony is staying in the ring with them, but not, just staying in that place of, how do I love this person right now? And sometimes it's just, most of the time, often it's just being quiet. Like I've realized with my family, when they start to try to provoke or go down some road of sarcasm, whatever, it's just like, you don't say anything,
when you're normally the one who can hold the conversation, tell the story at the table, or what have you, and then they start seeing that shift of, oh my gosh, she doesn't speak, she doesn't say anything anymore. And I've been doing that for years in many situations with people. And they kind of look at me like, wow, is she okay? Because she's not, And I'm like, yeah.
I can relate with that. So I have found that same thing where, you can kind of be the life of the party or whatever. And when you all of a sudden realize, you know what? I'm not so sure this is really serving us. And so I am going to kind of back out. And so I've done the same thing. And it makes people uncomfortable. And so, but I'm like, that's okay. That is okay. My job is not to make people comfortable. My job is to love them, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm here to make them uncomfortable, make them comfortable. So I'm going to work on being myself, but I'm also being myself without needing to put it in people's faces necessarily, because that's like taunting the bull. Am I going to taunt the bull, or am I just going to hang out with the bull? My goal is to ultimately, I don't want to, this would get off the bullfight, I think. I'm not actually wanting to taunt the bull. I want to coexist with the bull in the ring, right? So I'm just going to hang out with the bull. And then when the bull kind of comes at me, I'm going to just step out of the way, and see what I mean?
The irony of it, though, is when you're quiet in that situation and you're feeling good about yourself and how you're handling it, you're saying it makes them uncomfortable. I'm not saying you, but they become uncomfortable. In reality, I think it's more uncomfortable when there has to be some altercation in the back and forth. To me, that's like that isn't enjoyable at all. But I think you mean others are more comfortable with the discourse rather than you just sitting back.
I think some people are more comfortable in either in a provoking or argumentative, almost an argumentative state. They want to create some drama, And so that's the sort of like where they're going with it. They feel a sense of control. They feel a sense of something going on. I don't know. They're not. And so I think that there's just these dynamics that can go on with certain people that they're working out their stuff, and so they're working it out against you. They see all this, it's a mirror, and they don't always like what they see in the mirror, So my thing is, how do you keep going back to harmony, co-creation, sharing, without getting into a defensive mode, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, how do I get not into a defensive mode, not into, am I reacting out of some fear of what? Of that this is not going to go well, or they're not going to like me, or like, just don't react. Don't go to those places, right? When you feel it coming up, go back to your breath. Go back to I am divine, I am eternal, I am whole, right? You go back, use your techniques, and then from that place, you respond. Now that respond may be nothing, or it may be, hey, have you thought about it this way? Or, so it's just, but you're not coming from a place of fear or trying to play the game at the level that they're pulling you to. That's the thing. They're pulling you back down into this sort of scrum, basically. You're now playing the game. I mean, we use the bullfighter thing. You're now playing out this theater, right? Bullfighting is theater, basically, kind of brutal theater. But you could imagine if you were to go into the ring and your goal is to coexist and even maybe co-create with the bull. Like, I want to love the bull and I want the bull, that would be a totally different unfolding, right? You would still use some of the same skills as the bullfighter would, because the bull is not used to this game, right? But you would have a different outcome. And so it's kind of like that. So we're going in to the ring with the bull, but our intention is, I want to coexist peacefully and in cooperation and in harmony with the bull, knowing that the bull is who the bull is. The bull is instinctually what it is, meaning it's going to tend to get agitated and it's going to tend to protect itself and all that sort of stuff. So just kind of look at everybody like they're bulls, and
it's all bull, actually. So
right. So you see what I mean? It's like this is not a bad analogy. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not a bad analogy. So, anyone else want to make a thought or comment before we close up today? Anybody have any other feelings about all this? It's a lot to process, but hopefully what it does is, it just gives you this other place, right? Like, we're cultivating this other realm, this other space, this other level of consciousness, so that when we encounter these, our fears, basically, right? We have another way of reacting to them. We have another way of being compassionate with them. Not all of our fears are there for a reason. They are there to help protect us, right? So it's not like they're all bad, or they're certainly not all misguided. But we can kind of say, okay, is this something I really need to pay attention to here? Or is this just the personality thing? Because most of the stuff that we deal with are these personality, things going on. People wanting stuff or are wanting stuff, and then we get a little afraid that it's not going to show up the way we think it's supposed to. So, and I just think it's super helpful now, because there's just so much anxiety kind of overlaying everything right now, as we talked about with the pandemic and everything. And how can we sort of say, you know what? This pandemic just is. It is part of life. It is part of the actual course. I mean, we will look back, or people will look back on this as like, wow, that was an interesting time. I mean, it's just like other major shifts in society and in the world, and things have happened before too, and this is our time. And we've been unbelievably sheltered from large systematic changes for the last 40, 50 years, right? And but this is it. So it's like, okay, like, people have been going through actually major shifts throughout humanity, So, and this is ours. And how can we go through it as compassionately and mindfully as possible, And that's what we're doing here. This satsang is about cultivating those attributes. Yeah. All right, let's close it out. Bringing the hands together at the heart center. Pulling the shoulders and chin back, lengthening up through the crown. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, let it go with a sigh. Inhale. All that is sacred and divine in me bows to you and honors all that is sacred and divine in you. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Namaste. So I mentioned at the very beginning that I would tell you what I'm thinking about for when we enter into the new year. And that is to study Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. There's a bunch of Yoga Sutras out there, and if we decide to go down this road, I'll give you a recommendation of one. A bunch of translations and interpretations, but I'll give you the one that I'll probably work from. And so the sutras are probably the most important, at least in modern times, the most important yoga treatise and text there is in terms of yoga and to some extent meditation. Not all. There's lots of different if we're going on purely meditation. It's a little esoteric, but this particular translation I'm thinking of has good interpretations as well. And it's kind of just takes us back to the basics of why do we do this? Why do we do yoga? Why do we do meditation? Where is it supposed to be getting us? It's a very it's a kind of textbook for yogis that was written over 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, and it was codified, I should say, 2,500. These are a consolidation of literally like 3,000 or 4,000 years worth of study, kind of consolidated into 196 verses, and then sort of things went on from there, right? And so it just might be fun to spend a little bit of time. Some of this stuff I've gone over before, but it's kind of like it's good. It gives you a mental framework. A lot of the models that we've talked about, the chakras are in there, all the levels of ignorance are in there, talks about the asanas and the pranayams and the koshas and all the stuff that we've come up before, but it has a sort of very kind of specific breakdown. I just think it might be fun to go back. It's like going back to the source, going back home, and see what that's like. But you can think about that. I'm not it's not etching into that in stone, but it just sort of popped into my consciousness that might be fun to spend a couple months maybe exploring that and see where that goes. So give it some thought. Okay?
Good.
All right.